All right, folks, we got another one. Game 42 coming up. Here we go. This time, Morphy coming off the loss. He has the white pieces. Let's see what he can make of it. They got the second match game, September 1858. Okay, here we go. E4. Harvitz starts off with E5. King pawn game. Here comes the knight by Morphy. Philidor's defense, as noted in the first game of the match. This was Harvitz's go-to opening against the king pawn. Okay, so here we go. What do we do next? Well, Morphy likes to hit in the center, and after the exchange of pawns, recapture with the queen. We've mentioned in the other game, because there's footnotes now, it has a list of games to compare. Okay, and we went over the first game that this cropped up was number 20, and there was basically the footnote about how Lowenthal liked to capture with the knight. Morphy liked to capture with the queen. Let me just make sure. I think it was Lowenthal that was all for that. Yeah, let's see. Game 20, Lowenthal, when he had the white pieces, he liked to capture with the knight. Okay, and that was the theory, back and forth. Who's right? What's better? Capturing with the queen or with the knight? Well, let's go with Morphy. He's the star of the show, right, folks? All right, here we go. So the queen takes, Morphy takes with the queen. That was his preferred move. And it also says now, let me give a list of the games, okay, that we'll cover shortly. Some of them are coming right up in this match, and some are further down the road. But you got game number 27 we went over. I just referred to game number 20. We got game number 44 and game number 46 in this match, okay? Then we got a game coming down the road. We got 67, game 67. So we'll see more of these. All right. Very popular at the time. All right, so here comes the knight. All right, we've known this. We've seen this in the other two games we went over. You pin that guy. You don't want to move your queen. You don't want to retreat, right? Folks, you don't want to lose time. You develop the piece instead. What's better, moving and retreating, or developing the piece, right, and standing your ground? Come on, we all know. Let's do it. All right, bishop b5, pinning that knight. And now, okay, now Harvitz brings the bishop to d7. Now the knight's not pinned. So do we move the queen now? No, stupid. We take the knight, all right? We take the knight. All right, so anyway, we take the knight. You got to dummy up. And now Harvitz takes back. Because, look, folks, you got to take back some way, right? So this doesn't lose time for White. Excuse me. White doesn't lose time, you understand? This is tempos we're talking about. Hey, wake up, you. Let me slap you across the face before you fall asleep. This is Morphy we're talking about. It all comes down to these tempos, all right? So now Black has to recapture, obviously, right? So, okay, he captures. Harvitz knows the deal. He's been playing long enough. He's only the champ at the Cafe del Regents, whatever it's called here. What are we talking about? Cafe del Regents. Well, Regents. All right, whatever, you know. Tongue twister there for me. I don't speak French, all right? So here we go. Bishop recaptures. And at that point, where are we now? What are we doing? All right, here we go. Bishop takes bishop, and now we got, look at this move. All right, bishop to g5, okay? Now keep your shirt on, don't worry. Bishop g5, what does Harvitz do? Huh? He brings out the knight to block it. That's what he does, right? And I'll tell you something else here. If you go back, here's the footnote. Right here, the footnote, the old masters, I'm not making it up. Here it is. Lasker speaks of White's bishop as an agent provocateur, tempting Black to attack it with f6, which is inferior to Harvitz's move here. See game 44, okay? So that's going to come up in 2 games from now. We're going to have in this match. We'll see that, so we'll leave that for another day. We'll see why that's not good for Black. Okay, so Morphy's tempting him. Like Lasker speaks. White's bishop as an agent provocateur. I love it. Right? This game's got everything. All right. So the knight comes out. So the knight blocks it. Okay, and now at this point, we got another footnote after Morphy's knight c3. Morphy plays knight c3, but here it is, right here. It says, it has been much disputed whether White should have played bishop takes knight, queen takes, and the pawn takes. But it says Morphy's preference for keeping his queen can be readily understood. Because, as you know, he was an attacker, folks. He liked to keep the queens on. He's figuring to get the attack, right? Try to build that momentum. Try to get the jump. Try to get the initiative. All right. So you can understand why he avoided this line. This would give black the bishop pair, but it busts those pawns up over there on the king side. Isolated f pawns, isolated h pawn, maybe. Maybe this was the route to go. But anyway, oh, and there's an interesting line that Shredder started to go into here now. All right, so look, your White's e pawn's hanging, right? Let's develop the piece. Let's develop the piece to protect that pawn. Okay, now watch this. This is what's interesting. Watch this move. You just give up the pawn, right? All right, let's take it. Okay. Now look at this over here. Look, he comes attacking your G pawn, the nerve of this guy, right? All right, but let's do this. Let's get castled, okay? Well, then you drop the piece. You see this, folks? You got it here. Let me take the book right here. 2 slaps across the face. Wake up, all right? You got to wake up. You got to watch out for these. I stumbled across this with Shredder. So black's actually giving up a pawn, right? The double pawn. And if you think about it, too, let's go back a little. He's pushing this guy. Now he's going to get some scope. He's going to also get maybe some scope. Okay, his pawn is not on f6 anymore, blocking him out, you see. But okay, anyway, he played the rook over there and set the trap, folks. If you fall asleep and you just start making moves on autopilot, you deserve to get punished in this game. You understand? You don't want to do something like this. You drop the piece, game over. Right? And now it's also, if the king comes over like this, right? I mean, hey, can you do this? Can you protect it with your rook? Of course not, folks. Come on. What do you do when you drop the whole game? You dropped your whole army. What are you doing? All right? So let's pay attention here. So the king, this move, that sacrifice of that pawn is worth it for black. Now, the only way to defend that pawn, right, on G2 is to move the king. And you lost castling privileges. Right? So there you go. Right now you can't try to defend with this guy, and then look, he goes after you. You try to block, and then he's trying to protect him, and then look, you drop the rook over there anyway. Right? So pitfalls are all up. They're all springing up. Right? So the king's got to go over here. Right? So the king got to protect. Now he can't castle, so it's worth it for black. Right, he's got the 2 bishops. Here he goes, posting that bishop on the beautiful diagonal now. And there you go. Look at it. It's, anybody's game. But there you go. You want to throw a spiteful check? There you go. Take that. All right? What are you going to make of it? I don't know. But there you go. There's a way, it could go. And this crops up if he traded those, Morphy, figure this, folks, What's the point? You're trying to get the lead in development. You got the knight pinned. All right, for now anyway. You don't want to give up your queen, right? You don't want to just trade the queens. I mean, if you're black, that would be great. You got an equal game. It's anybody's fight, and you got half the pieces on the, more than half the pieces on the board. The queens are off, but you got the 2 bishops, the 2 rooks. I mean, lots of game left. So, anyway, what goes on here now after the knight? Morphy brings the knight to c3, like we said. Okay, and then we have the bishop coming out. Okay, Morphy castling long. Castling long, folks. Now, it shows right here, Harvard's played castles, right? You better get that king tucked away quick, folks. This is a king pawn game we're talking about. All right, you got Morphy, the tactician, right? You got to get that king castle quickly. Look, Shredder knows. He knows what's coming, right? Let's throw a dinky move in just to show it. Look at this, folks. Right away, boom. Shredder finds it. Here's the threat. Here's the threat if you're not paying attention. Look at this. You attack the knight, right? You attack the knight. And at this point, okay, Shredder's saying move the knight this way, right? Move him over there. Now you take, right? All right, you don't want to lose the piece out, right? So you got to take back. Now the pawn takes, uh-oh, the king file, folks. It's ripped open. You didn't castle yet. Look at this. All right, so now we got a rook possibly coming to e1, giving check. Black's going to lose castling privileges. All right. Now, if you trade queens, that's kind of like a contradiction, right? When you got the king stuck in the center, you want to keep those queens. You want to have pressure on the board, right? So maybe you throw in the check. I mean, if you go over here, folks, he could throw in. You can't castle right now because you got your queen under the gun, right? But there is this f4 check for the queen in between. Now you castle, see? And Black's doing all right. He slipped out of it. You had him, but he slipped out. Right? So you can't do that. Now, if you bring the rook over, I'm curious, he loses castling rights, but now he's protecting g7 with the king. And, you know, you could go from there. You got a +2 advantage here, folks. +2. You get a little aggravation hitting that queen. Black's got to move the queen to safety. And look at this. He forces a trade here. Is that what happens? All right, you block him out. You don't let him do it. Now you're threatening mate. Okay, no, he's got the knight. He's got the knight to block. You go here. Let's see. He goes over. Oh, he got mate that way. Oh, my God. There's my blind spot. I had the blinders on. If you go here, I'm looking at the back rank. See? I'm looking at that one. And he could block you with the knight, like I was saying. You could block with the knight. When you think you have a good move, always look for a better one, folks. There you go, right there. And you don't make this queen check, just to give you an understanding of this game. You don't make the queen check until you can find the follow-up, right? You find queen takes f7. Then you can make the move. You understand? All right, anyway, little notes here and there. But at this point, let's see, you move back. He tries to pin your queen, force an exchange of queens, but you block it out. So what does he do from there? He stops your check. He stops your check. All right, you're gonna give up the knight's coming in the attack. You see, Black can't castle. The rook on h8 is in an awkward position. All right, forced to trade. Now you got the rook lift up. So try to chase this knight out. That's the best move you got, huh? Look at that. You can't even save your knight, folks. Let's see. Let's say the knight goes to safety. I don't even know. Let's see what happens here. Oh, you draw him out, folks. You smoke him out. Look. If he takes over here, now you got the back rank, mate. There it is. You got the back ranker. So, there you go. There you go. They're all over the place. The threats are all over the place. All right, so he wants to chase this. I mean, folks, you're playing white. Who wouldn't want to take this, right? Who wouldn't want to play this game for white? So, okay. Look at this. Is this just to be able to... He takes now, right? You hit that queen off e7, right? You can't defend it. If he goes... Let's see. He goes here, right? All right, you get your knight back. Now he has the... If you do this, if you try one of these, it's not a back rank anymore. He has h7, right? So, let's see, you come back. I guess you just get your knight back, and you still got the attack. Now you're threatening, I'll show you. Now you're threatening check, king over, Bring this guy down, forced to trade, he comes up. Well, now you're going to win the queen, right? It's going to be game over here. Really? Do you have to... You throw in the check first, huh? You throw in the check first. You get him to go back. Now you take. All right, game over, right? There you go. Lots of surprises, but all brought to you by the mere fact that Black did not castle in time, folks. He did not castle in time. Now, they wanted to trade. Shredder was thinking of this first. Just trade, right? And then now you give the check. I don't know. You give the check. You could win that pawn. You're up a pawn. But, you know, so you go after the bishop. He castles. All right. He takes over here. You attack him. He moves back only to be chopped off. Because where else can he go, folks? Look. Can't go there, the knight. Can't go there, the queen knight. The queen knight. There you go. He goes back. If he goes here, I don't know. That doesn't look good, right, folks? I mean, we can win this guy back. But, you know, wouldn't you rather take that attack, folks? Wouldn't you rather... Look, you let him... All right, he's going to... You don't want to lose this one, right? I like the other line with the queen. You got to admit it, right? Even if you do this, look, you take over here, right? Maybe you double the rooks. You could castle. Okay, fine. You know, you want a pawn, right? You got to admit, this course, this whole program that we're bringing, Morphy, the games of Morphy, which one plays into Morphy style, right? Come on, you got to admit, this guy, check, he goes over, now you get out of the way, right? There you go. And that's what he likes. He likes this, we like that, right? Yeah, okay. There we go. We saw all that beautiful stuff. So that's just a little extra bonus there to show you these things, what's going on. This is why after castles, all right, there maybe there's h6 in the position. This is what Shredder's looking at this point. Maybe there's h6 hitting the bishop. Okay, but Harvitz, he castles. He castles, and now we got Morphy. I believe brings the other rook. Let's see, I lost my page after all that excitement. We got move 9, right? We got move 8. There you go. After castles by Harvitz, you got the king rook to e1. You're utilizing all the men, all the soldiers. Here he comes. Of course, you're going to want to push e5. You're going to want to rip it open, right? So you got the rook on the right file there, the e file, getting ready. All right, here comes the pawn push. All right, and we draw him back. You draw him back, and look at this. Harvitz with knight to e8. Retreating, going back. All right, here we go. We trade. Harvitz takes back, and now let's see. What do we do? Oh, wait, before we do that, let's make sure here. Let's make sure. Yep. Queen takes, and now the pawn push to try to rip it open. But get a load of this. The notes, folks. Here it is, the blow by blow. This hardly seems good, leading to a shattered king side without sufficient compensation in attack. Oh boy, so did Morphy blow it? Look at this. You take the knight. All right, you take back. Now your pawns are busted, right? Okay. But your king's safe on the queen side. He's not over there. All right, now you got, after the pawn takes back, you got the check, which Shredder finds, right? Now here you go. After the check, there is you got two options. Okay, Morphy chooses to go to b1, move the king out of the check. Okay, and in the notes it says it is difficult to decide whether this or pawn to f4 is better, blocking the check. Now, if you put Shredder on, you don't really, you don't really get anywhere. You take. Now, if you take with the queen, you could trade them, but then it takes your pawns are ugly on the king side. See them? they're all isolated, right? So if he takes you, you get these two again. Now that they could link up, so it's not as bad. But the queens stay on the board. But he goes over here, I guess, right? So I don't know, right? It's similar to what we're gonna look at, okay? It's amazing, this game. It's interesting that you'll see. After the check, he goes over. All right, now he takes. Now again, if he takes here, he could just swap them off. There you go. Right now, the pawns are still isolated. It's worse than the other variation. Okay, and this rook, rook doesn't represent like any big speed and development or anything. No advantage here. I mean, black's gonna basically bring. Let's even see what the evaluation is. I mean, I guess white can double on the E file, right? But does that really amount to anything? I don't know. It likes this move, right? So at this point, I don't know. Why not this, folks? Look, why not just come up here? You threaten to bust the king side. If he takes here, you take with your pawn, and you get a better pawn structure now. The F and E pawn can protect one another. They're not isolated anymore, right? So maybe that's the idea behind that. I guess you're going to attack the C pawn on the 7th rank as white. Right, like if you go like this, now you challenge the rook. Alright, big deal. Now it's a pawn endgame, right? You're threatening to come down. See why the king has to move here? The king's got to move there so that when you come and attack that C pawn, he could block with this. See? And you can't take the C pawn. The king has to come over to help over here like this. The king has to come over to support the rook. Now, if you check, big deal. You just go back, and you're willing to get a draw. You see, black. Hey, you're the one with the white pieces here. You don't want to go for the draw. You want to win when you're white, right? Black would be more than satisfied, I guess, with a draw. But anyway, that's just some ideas that could occur. Does white have a lead, like a big advantage? No. It's anybody's game at this stage. Right? So, all right, we'll go back. We'll go back and you'll see what happens in the game. You got the check. Morphy moves over. The pawn takes. And he doesn't take with the queen. He takes with the rook. Which makes sense, right? It's Morphy here. He already played before. He wants to keep the queens on the board. He still wants to keep the queens on the board, okay? So he takes with the rook. Now he puts some pressure on black's queen. The queen's got to move, right? All right, so he slides down here like Shredder. Shredder wants to go to G2 also. So anyway, Harvard's queen to G2. Attacking those busted pawns over there, the F3 pawn, the H2 pawn, right? And let's see, we got to move knight to D5, getting ready to come in on the attack, right? Jump to E7 with a check. All right, who knows, right? Here we go. Harvard's taking the rook pawn. Right, gobbling up pawns while his opponent is mounting an attack. Right, he's getting the soldiers into a position here for an onslaught. But amazingly, Harvitz is able to hang in there. Look at this. Watch. Now, right here we got a footnote. Morphy draws the rook back to come, I guess, over here, right, to aim down at the king. He brings it back. But there's a footnote here, another note by the old masters. Here we got Maroxy, right? Two alternatives suggest themselves. We got Queen Rook to Queen Rook to E1, doubling those rooks on the E file, right? There's an idea, okay? And also the other idea is to block the queen's retreat back on this diagonal with F4, okay? And it says here, the latter being Morphy's recommendation to hinder the retreat of the black queen. Morphy, however, wants to use the open G file. Okay, so he pulls it back, and sure enough, here comes the queen. Right? Let's just see what happens if you play a dinky move over here. What's the threat? What would be the threat? Is there any? I guess you play F4 now to block the queen out. Actually, look at this. You do this, right? And let's see. He's saying to do this. He could slip to... Okay, you can't trap the black queen. That's what I was looking to do. Trying to trap him. There could be these tactics with a double, set up a double check. Look at that. You want to get one of these. You want to get one of these in. Let's say you attack the queen. Doesn't matter, folks, because you go in, right? You go in with a double check. Maybe it doesn't amount to much, though. I guess it doesn't, right? So anyway, always look for those. Those are powerful moves. Those double checks, set up a double check. But anyway, it looks to me like white is trying to trap the black queen. You slide in the two rooks over to the open files. So for instance, right, you go like this. I mean, no, it's not going to work now. You go here, he slides over, he could take the knight, see? But that's the idea. You're trying to trap the black queen. Maybe win that way, you know. But okay, it's a few moves. You got to build them up. You know, that's the problem with this, and why Harvitz is able to squeeze out of this. Let's see. After you bring the rook back, he retreats the queen. Okay, he stays away. If you're going to try to trap the queen, you got to use too many tempos. Black weasel out of it. If you think you're positioned now, right, the queen gets out, and you're going to try to attack along, you know, the open G file with the rook and your knight, amazingly, you don't have enough, and black can actually defend this. It's just, I can't even stress it. I can't even say it, folks. It's puzzling. I can't believe it. If you look at, you got a knight on the back rank. The rooks aren't linked up. You know, Harvitz grabbed the H-pawn, you know, and it just looks like Morphy with the rooks on the open files, right? He could grab the G-file now. His queen is bearing down, the knight's bearing down, but he just doesn't have it. He doesn't have enough. It's very puzzling. It just, I guess it has to do with your pieces have to be developed, but they also have to be coordinated and focused on certain attacking points, you know, and at this point they're not, at this stage. See, Harvitz pulls the queen back to D6. Now he brings the rook, right, rook to G1. And you see the knight's covering this. So there's no mate threat. Queen takes, mate. Now if this rook, the other rook was on, for instance, he goes over, right? He goes over. Harvitz actually likes H7. If this rook was here, now you could sack it, kill the defender, take him out, and then queen takes G7 would be mate. See, so he's just a step behind. He just doesn't have enough. So after this, my mistake, you know, right here, king over, this wasn't the move. I'm saying if this rook was here, so it's on D1 at the moment. Here we got Morphy moving the queen to E3, ready to move the knight with a discovered attack on the queen. All right, for instance, you make a dinky move. Well, now there you go. You move the knight, and the queen's attacked by the rook. He goes here. Get a check, but interesting stuff here. He goes. And he's going to do that, right? Hits him there. There's really nothing, right? So while the pieces looked like they were menacing and they're all set up, let's go over this again after this move, right? After this, right? The rook takes. The queen comes down. The knight gets up to d5, getting ready to join the attack. He grabs the pawn. Morphy pulls back. The queen could come back. Now he takes the g file, right? Looks dangerous. The king comes up to h7. Now you got Morphy pulling the queen back to e3. Pawn up. f5 by Harvitz. Now the knight moves to f4, unleashing the rook on d1. Okay. Harvitz plays the queen to b6. Wanting to trade those queens. It's white who has the attack, right? If anybody. So he wants to get rid of those queens. Now, Shredder likes this move, right? Bring the queen down, attack that rook, but get a load of this, right? He brings, let's see, if you go here, you bring this guy, right? So it's really, look at the evaluation, there's not much there. You got to retreat, right? So Morphy brings the queen back. He's protecting the f2 pawn also at this stage, but he's really threatening this, folks. Let's make a dinky move over here. Here we go. Maybe this would be just enough now. He's close. He's close. He's just like one move behind in this game with his attack. So we throw in a dinky move. This is what tempos is all about, folks. It's all the difference. We burn a move for black, a silly move. I want to show you the threat. Right? Rook to d7. Now they're piling up on g7 over there. The two rooks. Okay, so he's got the knight, but you see what's being threatened, folks, is queen takes, right? Queen, actually, no, but we'll see. Look at this. Watch this. Queen takes. If he takes with this rook, you get the check, right? Check, and then mate, okay? I figured that was a nice pattern to show you, okay? Rook's on the 7th. Hogs on the 7th, as they say, right? But, obviously, you see it right there, folks. He could take with that one, and now he has that one escape square, right? He has the escape square right there at f8. Now it's just checks, right? Check, 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 check. That's all there is, right? All day long. And don't forget, like, if he goes here, you know, you could win your queen back. That would be made if the queen wasn't over here, but he could take the queen, right? And then you figure, oh, I won my queen back, but you almost forgot it, folks. Look. I mean, you did forget about it. You got to watch, right? This game of chess. This game of chess, it'll knock you for a loop, all right? So anyway, we go back, right? We see what's coming down. We see what's coming down. Now, we don't sack the queen because it doesn't work. You can't hope your opponent takes the wrong way, right? You can't do it. So look at Shredder now. You go after the rook over here, threatening to win the exchange, right? Now what could he do? Because now that knight's also piling up on g7, right? So what can he do? If he moves him here, right, what do? You pile up even more. Look at this, each one, folks. Yep, you add one more to the mix. And what can you do? Everybody's bearing down on g7. You got the two rooks, a knight, and the queen. And black only has two defenders, so there you go. It's game over now. All right, now, yeah, we threw in a couple of wasted tempos to show you. How about this? Look, he likes the queen move. Maybe that's good, huh? Let's see. Look at this. The knight comes up anyway if he takes, folks. Look at this, right? You take, look at that. That's a maneuver for you. Alright, so anyway, he comes over attacking your rook. You come over. Alright, now he goes over here. Now queen to e5 isn't the same, because then the queen will take the rook on d7. Maybe takes, yeah, it doesn't work. So, alright, he's buying time. Maybe he slides it to f7. Comes over here. Looks like white has a slight advantage according to the engine here. Let's see. Oh, I think I see this. Now maybe the knight check on g5, right? The knight check on g5 may be the answer here. Let's just see. There was this silly move. The knight's still there. The queen is still there. Let's see. If he takes, you get the rook check. He goes in over here. Take, right? Can you come in? With, let's see. Alright, you take here. Yeah, if you come in with the check, he could just block with the knight, I guess. But what about this? If he takes, what do we do, folks? Now we're taking right here. Look at this. It's all over, right? It's all over. Why not take with the queen? Alright, so we're up there too, right? You gotta admit, that's pretty stuff. Alright, so there's one way. You're up big there. So all it is another tempo, folks. That's all it takes. Alright, so Harvitz wants to trade queens. Morphy pulls the queen back. Alright, so to prevent this threat of rook down, here comes Harvitz. So you understand why he plays rook to f7, right? Alright. Now you get the queen attacking that rook. It's undefended. Alright, now the queen comes over to help protect it. Right? He doesn't want to move that rook back to f8. So anyway, what we got now, here we go. Shredder finds it. Knight to h5, but here we go. They have a footnote. Rook down, attacking the queen. The queen moves. She's got to protect the rook on f7, right? Now this guy moves over here. Okay? And what ends up happening, if the queen's got nowhere to really go, right? What if he goes here? Right? Where's it go now? It's going to squish to one more square, and that's it, right? Still, it looks like he squeezes. Is he squeezing out of this? Unbelievable. I mean, if you'd want to be playing, which side would you rather be playing, folks? Black or white? Does he get to survive this? I didn't look at this line. Here we go. All right. He moves here. Yeah. I don't know. It looks like they're just dancing now. But anyway, the rook comes here. This is the line they give in the book. I'll show you. The old masters give this. After the rook comes here, you don't even move the queen. You put the rook on d8. Right? Now, if you take, remember, you got that back rank to worry about. You can't. You can't do it, folks. So if he takes here, now you still got the back rank to worry about. So, I mean, all right, Shredder's saying the best move's queen e2, and it's now it looks like it's in black, slightly in black's favor. So anyway, you know, this is what they give. You know, after rook to d8, it says this leads to nothing for white. The text move, which is knight to h5, like we showed, that's what Morphy played. It says the text move and pawn to a3, however, are part of a fruitless combination, which black meets without difficulty, proceeding then to cut off the knight. Okay, so the queen moves here, protecting that rook. Here comes the queen rook attacking the black queen, and now she moves over to d7. All right, now, because there's that back rank problem, we make a hole, a3, right? Making a flight square for his king and threatening rook takes knight. Okay, let's show it. Rook takes knight, and then whether rook takes, okay, then you got this combination. You got rook takes here, check, right? And then you get the knight fork, see? And then boom. And he captures the knight. And now it's queen versus two rooks. According to the evaluation, looks like black's a little better. But who knows, right? Who knows? Black does have a passed H pawn. But anyway, it says whether he takes with the rook here or with the queen here, you get the same shot. Look. King up, you take. All right, rook recaptures, and there you go. This is evaluating it a little better for white, like it's than the other variation. So it's anybody's game at this point. It's actually a little in black's favor, but, you know, really, who knows? So we got the queen coming over. Okay, and now after a3, well, after a3, here it is. They're saying, it says that we got the combination I just showed where the knight wins the queen, and then it's the two black rooks against the white queen. But as black has an answer to this, the move merely wastes time. Queen to bishop 3 was better. There you go. They leave it at this. Who knows? That's what they say. That was better for white. So, okay, you got a3. Here we go. Knight jumps up to d6 on the queen. Queen goes to d4. The other rook slides on over, okay, protecting that vulnerable g7. Okay, now you got Morphy putting a rook lift. He's going to try to double the rooks on the G file, I guess. That's the idea. But now the knight goes back, and you got everybody protecting it, okay? Not like that other variation where the two rooks, the white queen, and the knight all barreled down on G7, and there was only two defenders, and the queen and the rook were out of play, right? There was nothing they can do. This is totally different. Every black soldier's defending G7 now. So after rook to G2, now you get the knight going back. All right. The knight's unleashing the attack on the queen, right? You don't want to double your rooks and then only lose your queen. So he has to move. All right. Queen C3. Now we got pawn to F4. Now the square for the knight, the retreating square. He's trapped over here now. He can't even move. All right? So the rook comes over to try to protect the knight, I guess, and aim at the enemy king also. Pawn up. Okay? Well, now he uses this rook instead to double up the rooks. Finally, if he takes here, he loses this guy, right? Okay, and he's back in it. So it protects the knight for now, but here comes the queen. Queen to d5. Now she's attacking the knight. And you got queen to e1. Queen takes knight. Now you got this. Look at this move. Look, if he takes, folks, look. If he takes, now you pin the queen. And, I mean, you know, all right, Shredder. I don't even think Shredder bats an eye at this. To this, right? What are you going to do? I mean, if you win the queen, I mean, you're still, right? You're down. It's not just queen versus two rooks. It's queen versus two rooks and a knight, right? Doesn't look too good. So, here you go. He brings the rook up. And instead of taking, Harvitz takes the pawn over here. He said, I can't even bother. And now you got queen coming down, attacking the rook on f7. The rook comes up, protected by the knight, right? Morphy throws in the check. And sure enough, here you go. You got the rook blocking it. Morphy grabbing the knight, so he gets his knight back, but he loses the rook. All right. Wait, he could check him here, right? No, because the queen's on it, right, folks? So, what happens? He brings the queen back to try to get that rook check in on h1, right? But it doesn't matter, folks. It doesn't matter. The queen goes back. The idea is this, right? You check here, and now if the queen goes back, now you get your other check. He goes there, he blocks. And what do we got? We just got we just could harass him, right? Is this like a never-ending check? Checks all over the place, right? Look. Right? What could he do? You get a draw. He's going for the draw, right? There's no win here. So you would just check him to death. See, the evaluation equal. So that's what he's going for, right? Now you can see there was this line that I avoided just to show you check, king down, and then you get the perpetual checks, right? Never-ending checks. But Shredder sees this. Block with the queen, it's still a game. If you take this guy, right? If you take this guy, he takes back, he undoubles the pawns, and now it's queen versus the rooks again. Looks like the rooks are better. You got the pawn advantage. Okay, you got a passed h-pawn. You got king side majority of pawns there. So they're even saying to come up here. You're pinning that g. Look, for instance, you're pinning the pawn, so now you'd win the queen. All right, but simple enough. He moves up. You take. I guess you got to take now, right? There's nothing you can do. All right, you win the pawn over there for now. But I don't know, folks. It looks dangerous. Those pawns are coming down on the king side. All right, anyway. It gives the evaluation to black. All right, so this is what he's trying for. When the rook comes down, I mean when the queen comes back, he takes, he brings it back. This is what he's going for. But black just brings the queen back. He takes away that checking square to white queen. He covers e8, right? So now it doesn't matter. That's it. Morphy resigns. And here's the last footnote of the game. It says, this made Harvitz's third successive win against Morphy. It said, Steinitz says that no satisfactory explanation is given how Morphy lost this game. Pawn to e5 on move 13 had much to do with the loss. So had the knight's maneuver onto the h-file. All right. Monday morning quarterback, right, folks? What are you going to do? So, if you heard what I said, this made Harvitz's third successive win against Morphy. The reasoning is that he lost the first match game that we went over. He lost this game. but he had also lost an offhand game to Harvitz before the match started. Let me just check the number. It says 200, game 225. 225. This was in the casual game section. 220. I'm almost there, folks. Roman numerals. Here it is, 225. That's 235. My mistake. Here we go. 200 and... Here it is. Paris, September 1858. That's all it says here. So this was his third loss. He played an offhand game, a casual game with Harvitz, and lost. And then they played these two match games. Here's the ending footnote to game 225. It says, this was the first meeting between Morphy and Harvitz, being an offhand game played at the Café del La Regence just before the match. All right, so see last note on game 42. That's what we just went over. See that? So that was 3 games in a row. Unheard of for the great Morphy. I don't know. What's he going to do, folks? Was this his nemesis? Was Harvitz the, was it a match, he couldn't beat him? We're going to have to find out. You're going to have to tune in to game number 3 of the match. Game number 43 of Morphy's Games of Chess. All right. We'll see what ends up happening. Stay tuned.